Ass titties.
This is Jason.
I'm Frank, and today we are talking about variations. And so, I mean, this one's definitely way more of a freeform one. There's not as many like hard fast rules with this. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we could talk about landing stances and like the micro like details of that all day, but like variations are kind of infinite, to be honest.
Right, and they're basically kind of like intended to add creativity to like aren't already like strict, you know.
Yeah,
it's like instead of landing stances and using landing stances for creative freedom, which you can totally do, you can also use variations, which just allow even more of that.
Yeah, pretty much infinite creativity. You could do stupid shit. You could swipe and then gyro 2 times and then hook kick or whatever, or you could Jesus flip. And those are both variations, you know what I mean? It's like, it definitely encompasses the most out of like the 4 that we talked about, because I mean, think about it, with inversion, we have 2 levels or 3 levels if you're a plebeian.
Right.
So there's only 2 levels of like freedom there. For landing stances, there's only 4, maybe
8 if you get specific.
Yeah, I guess. And then what else is there? There's takeoff, which takeoff probably has the most freedom besides variation, because there's about 8. Actually, there's a little more than 8 because unified. So yeah, but variation is
12.
Variation is essentially infinite. Actually, it's 10 because there's only 2 trick models and unified.
Well, you know what I'm saying, because you can do like. Never mind. They all watched the unified episode. They know the landing stances.
Yeah, exactly.
But like you're saying though, like I think of variations as a natural extension of tricks. Like in episode 1 when we were talking about what makes a trick, I talked about modifiers. Where we talked about like, you know, the 2 main things that make a trick, and it was like level of inversion and takeoff, and then things that you can
do. And those
do.
create like the base trick.
Right, whatever. And then things that you could do in addition to that is change your landing stances.
Yeah.
So I kind of grouped landing stances with, modifiers,
okay.
But with variations as modifiers to a trick
is like the subcategory.
Right, because it's kind of optional, right? Because you can't like completely omit a landing stance.
Yeah.
Because all tricks have a default landing stance.
They have an understood one, yeah.
But you
can modify the landing stance.
Exactly.
But that doesn't change the trick like inversion does or like takeoff does.
Exactly.
Which
I
agree with you.
And so that's why we kind of grouped it. But like we were saying, it's harder to define, not as concrete. Yeah. And it's actually very different from transitions, because you can do transitions into landing stances. Right. It's a different landing stances.
Exactly. So yeah, I guess the best definition I have for variations, and we've said this before, is like you can tack on any one of these variations that we named today to any base trick. So you can tack on like rounds to cork, you can tack them onto full, you can tack them onto whatever. You can do the same thing with Snabu. You do the same thing with Jesus, maybe? I don't fucking know.
I don't know why you ever would, but you can.
I don't know what my fixation is with Jesus flips. I just keep bringing it up. It's the most important variation.
It is. Jesus flips. The only one that really matters.
But yeah, so basically it's infinite. There's so much to talk about here.
Right.
But basically the way we're gonna split it up is we're gonna talk about like pretty normal variations and the clinical names, and we're gonna talk about some of them that are like mixed together that create different like other non-clinical names, so colloquial names, because that's kind of almost one of the main things that variation does, is it creates these colloquial names behind like these mix of variations together. Like, I mean, the most common one is like Horwang, like that's a D-leg and a gyro. Those are 2 variations, really.
Right.
So, so I mean, I guess we could just go straight into variation. And actually, something to note about variation is that where it happens sometimes matter within the trick. So what I mean by that is, like, if you take the basic kicks like D-leg and round and hook, they can kind of happen almost anywhere while you're doing like a cork, for example. But then you have very specific ones like, I don't know, like late round, which like has to happen at mega, and you have to like at the end of the trick, and it's almost like a landing. But actually, you can hyper that. So
right. So well, that's what I'm saying. Like, so before we get too deep onto the topic of transitions, or I mean variations. I'm sorry. So much strict conversation. Was that like kind of like the limits of like variations and like when they become landing stances? Because like all tricks and most variations actually have like an implied landing stance.
Yeah.
But like because
so like let me think of an example.
Okay.
So D-leg, for example, as a variation, has an understood complete landing.
Right.
Because most people, when they say, like, I did cork D-leg, you understand that it's landing complete unless they modify it. Unless they're like, D-leg, hyper.
Right. Or like D-leg eagle to swing. Or D-leg round, right? Which would just land at like, because D-leg would land unified complete, unified absolute complete, if we're going to get nerdy.
Yeah.
Or like, just single leg absolute complete.
Right, exactly. No, I agree.
But you could still like, you could D-leg like, a hyper or D-leg swipe.
Yeah.
And, then change your additional landing stance past your variation. So
and
like,
see if you're saying swipe, there's an understood landing there too.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's another one. And we'll talk more on swipe because swipe is a little bit more nuanced than most might think. It's not its own base variation.
Yeah.
But like I wanted to say, like the landing stance essentially is the termination of a trick, right? And in your landing stance you can variate into a different landing stance than the assumed one. Like we were saying, like hyper twist or hyper gyro.
Yeah.
Or gyro knife, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Gyro is always understood as landing complete, but then you hypered it.
Right.
And so that changed.
Right. Or
stuff like that.
and or like
mega hook.
like late swipes, right? Ooh. So like you were saying, late 9, but hypered that, right? You land in either hyper or semi, and that would be like swiping that late kick.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the implied was mega, and now it's switched to hyper.
Right. And so like I guess what I want to say is that like that's what's really different about landing stances versus transitions. Is like landing stances
versus variation.
Sorry, yeah. So much trick theory.
Too much trick theory.
Too much trick theory. Too many orchards. You really do get lost. But that's what I'm trying to say, though. Is like the landing
I don't know if this lifestyle is sustainable.
I don't know if it is either. It's a once a week is killing us. But I've become a serious alcoholic.
Oh no!
This is actually a cry for help, listeners. Please, like, you send me to the closest AA.
Oh, dude, he's fine. Don't worry about it.
No, please.
Okay.
But essentially, though, like, I guess, like I said before, the landing stance is the termination of a trick. No more variations can really happen after that.
Yeah, exactly.
And that determines, like you said, the landing stance and all this other stuff.
There's a small exception to that rule, which I'll get to eventually. But
oh, wait, no. It's the cursed one, isn't it?
No. Well, maybe, actually. It probably is, actually. We have a few cursed ones here.
Yeah, there's quite a few cursed things you can do with variations.
Yeah, when you allow infinity to play with, you're gonna get some bullshit. Like that's just it. Like, I mean, technically, you can name anything a variation. Like, you can name a salute. Like, if you salute during your
soldier full
your cork.
Dude, I cannot wait for salute full swing double cork or salute dub swing salute dub.
You literally
Triggers are slacking. No respect for the military these days, bro.
Dude, absolutely zero. Can you believe they have a whole month dedicated to Pride Day and only one day dedicated to veterans who kill brown children? Okay, anyway, not to get political, but just kidding. We actually respect all the military.
Actually, I mean, fuck war, but
well, we're anti-war, decidedly anti-war here on Talking Tricks.
Yeah,
so,
that's just a hard and fast rule.
If you're not anti-war, you can get the fuck out. But anyway,
despite that brief radicalization of our viewers,
let's get to actual variations. So, like, okay, so when we're talking about vert kicks, for example, and you say tornado or you say cheat 7 and stuff like that, what's really happening there is that the base trick is just the twist no kick, right?
Yeah.
So
we talk about this when we earlier in our I don't know if it was actually the first episode. It's one of our first ones, but we talked about 360 no kick.
Yeah, it's a trick. And that is the base trick for, like, let's say backside 9, for example. Backside 9, base trick, 360 no kick. Like, you just jump up, 360, you're good.
Yeah. It's really dumb.
Yeah, but the variation added is a round.
Right. And that makes it become
backside
9 potentially. Or whatever 360 round is, depending on where you take off, unified.
Yep.
Or,
and as a result, every vert kick is kind of a variated trick and stuff like that. So, I mean, technically every trick is variated because you can always pick out subtle things that it's
Right.
like, oh, this is this. Like,
Well,
this
the
is modified
360
this way.
kick is a variation of, just jump nothing.
You're not wrong.
Right.
Well, I was
It's
thinking...
a 360 in addition, it's gyro.
I was even thinking how we subconsciously name variations, and what I mean by that is, like, when we don't explicitly give a trick a variation name, but, like, for example, if you do a really shitty cork, and it's, like, kind of tucked, I'm like, oh, that was kind of like a tucked shitty cork that wasn't, like, inverted. That's technically a variation, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you did cork in a subtle way that was different from the quote-unquote base cork, so it's like, you know what I mean?
And this kind of fits into the...
or icy cork or something.
Right, and this fits into the just variations are infinite, just like you were saying.
Quite literally infinite. There's no way we can name
there's
all
ugly
that.
ones that really just kind of fuck with the rules of, like, tricking and what we understand.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
like, as normal. And some of them are more popular than you might think. So,
Exactly.
Yeah, and
So
we'll touch on that.
yeah, so if you're looking for an exhaustive list of variations, this is not the podcast to listen to.
But we will go through quite a bit of them.
Yes.
Starting with hook, which is your default, you know.
Hook and round.
Hook and round.
Those two are like the default kicks. It's
Yep.
like hook is always going to happen with your left leg if you're a left twister, and round kick is always going to happen with your right leg if you're a right twister. And so, like, I don't know, like, the way I like to think about variations is, like, kind of like Magic the Gathering. So we're big fucking nerds. We play Magic the Gathering, and, like, this game gives you a set of rules, and it's like, these are the base rules and shit like that. And with your cards, you're basically, like, breaking these rules. It's like, oh,
or adding on to them, or
exactly.
building, like, playing around these rules.
Modifying them in some way. So when I say hook always happens with your left leg and round always happens with your right leg, that's not entirely true because there are variations that break that rule.
Okay,
So-
and really quick, viewers at home might be wondering, what is a hook kick that kicks with the right leg called? And, my friends, I'm happy to tell you that the trick / transition for that, we'll have to break it down one day, is called holy hook, which is a G switch, but instead of, like, eagling with the right leg, you actually perform a moon kick with your right leg. And it's, Dan Pitlock can do it, actually. And it's just super old school.
Yeah. See, there's multiple variations of right-legged hook, and so that's one of them. But another one that I've heard of is Hawkeye, which is like you're doing
which is which should be a round, but is performed like as a hook instead.
Exactly, but you're doing like a normal, so like tornado setting or something like that. It's like
Beers.
Yeah, exactly. Your right leg's coming up, and it's like you're about to round, and it's like you sweep it over and you hook and shit like that. So that's Hawkeye. So yeah, like I said, all these rules can kind of be broken.
Yeah,
and shit like that,
a lot of variations make great way to, like, throw the rules out the window and kind of just build on what should have been, but is now done something different.
Yeah, exactly. So, and another, like, example is, like, for example, we think of hooks as always landing on your hyper leg. Always landing in hyper. But, for example, the variation of shuriken is actually a mix of a variation in landing stance, and it's when you hook, but you land in mega or in complete. It's basically, it's understood that you're landing on the leg that you hooked with.
Right.
So that's really what shuriken means. So, and, like, similarly, swipe, it's like you're round kicking, but you're landing on the same leg. You know what I mean?
on with shuriken, really quick, we talk about how some occur at, like, specific spots, and some kind of don't really follow that rule. Like, D-leg can kind of be done throughout the trick, or shuriken is done, like, really early on and can be maintained throughout the trick.
Yeah.
But we see tricks like, Fei Long, which are, like, shuriken rounds. So it does the shuriken really early and then breaks it with a round.
Yeah.
And, like, so what I
feel
mean
like
by-
shurikens are always done early.
Well, that's the thing, right? And that's what I'm getting to, right? It's like
Yeah.
you can't do a shuriken after you do a round kick.
Yeah,
Right?
no.
Like, you kind of have a specific spot where you can do some of these variations.
Yeah.
And, like, shuriken is definitely one of them where it has to be, like, one of your earlier kicks.
Yeah.
And D-leg kind of has this, like, really big privilege of being able to be kind of done, like, before,
Anywhere.
after, in the middle. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with D-leg because of just how much
leeway.
it has.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree with that. And then similarly to how you were saying that, like, once you pass a certain point, you can't do the other kick. Like, if I've already rounded, I can't do the prior hook kick.
Right.
So, one that breaks this rule, as you know, so, like, jackknife does round and hook, right?
I should have seen this coming.
You know where I'm going
I
with
should
it.
have seen this coming. We did mention cursed variations, and this is one of them.
So, whack knife is where you round, but then you don't hook on the next twist, you hook on the prior twist, right? So, and what I mean by that is, like, obviously you're not twisting backwards, but it's as if you were doing that hook that was supposed to happen before your round. You know what I mean? Right. So it's like round hook all in the same twist, right? So that's one that breaks that rule.
Yeah.
So it's like you can find these anywhere.
Yeah, it really that's like a rule of variations that a variation decided to break. Like, you know what I mean? Like, variations just really do not give a fuck.
Yeah, they really just hear fucking shit up.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, there's actually D-leg is kind of almost like a broad term to like envelop a bunch of different types of variations. And by the way, I don't know if there's any beginners out there, but D-leg, I feel like people have been saying D-leg a lot lately that people don't even understand that's not double leg anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Is like
D-leg and double leg are different things.
Yeah.
What is D?
I actually had a trigger come up to me and ask me that, which I mean I'm not shitting on him or anything.
Right.
He was a beginner, but like it's just like, oh, like I know D-leg, but like what's double leg? And I'm just like, oh. Same trick.
Right.
So it's just funny because we just don't use double leg anymore.
Right.
Because it's just
short. Been so abbreviated.
Yeah, exactly. But sorry, what were you gonna say?
You mentioned swipe earlier, and I actually want to talk on swipe really quick.
Okay.
And that's that it's actually our first compound variation, and where it's kind of like you said, it's implied that you land on the hyper leg. But it's a combination of both a landing stance and a variation.
Yeah.
So it's that round kick.
It's a round, yeah.
That's like, and that round kick is kind of carried through to the hyper landing or potentially the semi.
Right.
If you want a front swing. Yeah. Totally valid. But or ultra because we're real around here.
For sure.
Totally forgot.
Yeah.
But yeah, like essentially though, it's like a combination of two parts, and like it requires like it can only be a right leg landing. Yeah. So that's like guaranteed. And same way that shuriken can only be a left leg landing. Yeah. Right? You can't land shuriken on your right leg unless you're twisting to the right.
Unless you shuriken hyper hook. Which is another rule breaker.
Right.
But that's it's not even a rule breaker, but
It's another it's a completely different transition or variation on its own.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Because it's a compound variation of what we're going to talk about, shuriken, swipe, and then hyper hook.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, but yeah, so I mean we're definitely gonna hit on that compound thing because we have a lot of colloquial names for that, and colloquial names is kind of where variations thrive. Right. You know what I mean? Is like a lot of our colloquial names are here because it's hard to be clinical here. Like I guess the most clinical you can be is like describing everything in round and hooks, but even then that definitely doesn't talk about everything. So it's like
right. It kind of gets close, but it doesn't quite. Scratch the itch, and that's because of just how infinite variations are.
The sheer infinity.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was saying before, D-leg kind of is almost like an umbrella term, and it's just we almost use it as triggers to just refer to anytime you're piking or anytime you're making that L shape or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? So it's like things like Rocket Boy are seen as like a D-leg variation. So it's like
I would call it that.
Yeah, it's a D-leg, but like I don't know, your arms are out or something.
It's like a one-handed pike, and the other hand's like got to be out perpendicular to your flip or whatever.
It's an oddly specific one.
Yeah,
like,
and that's actually another thing that you'll find too, because we were researching some and. What was it that we found? It was the Shaolin Cross, and that was like, and that was like specifically swing through,
it's Fei Long swing,
swipe.
Fei Long swipe,
exactly. And I was like, that's just so like
contrived,
it's so contrived. It's so specific, and when you look at
that's
it,
what triggers do
compared to the grand scheme of things, like there's so many other ways to shuriken swipe. Like it didn't have to be from swing, like I mean,
I think there is I guess a discussion to be had about how much we should colloquial name shit. Because, like, we can come up with every mathematical possibility and name them each individual things. But at what point is it just too much,
Right. And that's another episode for another time.
Exactly.
Bit slicers versus our aggregators. Stay tuned. Talking tricks. We don't stop.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, also, like, Parafuso, I would see sometimes people refer to as D-leg. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, that's like, one of them is vert, when the other one's inverted and shit like that. Right. So it's
but essentially the same idea. The para variation, para 9 is kind of it's an older term, I think. But like they used to call like TD rise punch, like para TD rise and stuff.
Oh my gosh,
cursed.
Yeah, that is pretty cursed.
Yeah,
I like Invergado more. Touchdown Invergado. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you will actually see a lot of this. I feel like old school triggers used to differentiate a lot between vert twist and inverted twist in terms of variation, like gyro only happens when you're vertical, and twist only happens when you're inverted. And some people still follow that tradition. Most people just say this, just use them interchangeably. And same thing with like D-leg and para is like sometimes I'll see those like interchangeably used. Not as much para for inverted, but a lot of D-leg for verted. Right. So, it's just weird. And then another one was Lone Star. I don't quite. Do you remember what Lone Star was?
Yeah. So, Lone Star is another one of those like oddly specific ones. It's intended to be what, like E-flip, right? Or side flip,
it's
spiked?
It's like you're doing an Arabian, but in you stop a lot in the side flip axis for it. So okay, you turn 90 degrees, and if you're still flipping, you should be doing a side flip type of motion.
Oh yeah.
And that's where the D leg happens, or the pike.
Right.
It's like a hard pike, and then you like finish it by doing the actual Arabian.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Lone Star is like so oddly specific that it's kind of hard to like determine, especially watching a trick in full speed. Mm-hmm. But our friend and former teammate Kyle Regenzer used to be famous for doing the Swamp Donkey / Swamp Ass, which was essentially a Lone Star twist, or full Lone Star twist, and then full Lone Star twist hyperhook respectively.
Oh god, yeah, that shit was a full Lone Star twist hyperhook is just fucking insane.
Yeah,
because like I can barely double full hyperhook. I mean, I used to be able to do it, but like now I'm like, I know I can't do it because I've been injured for a while. But yeah. Like next thing we're gonna talk about is twist versus gyro, and like I just mentioned it like a few seconds ago about how like gyro typically meant like a vert twist, and twist was like when you're inverted. And I could actually see how this distinction could help a little bit. Like maybe it's a little bit too like thin slicing or micro dividing and shit like that. But like I could see how someone doing a trick like full up, for example. Like technically the twist that's happening in a full up is quote unquote gyroed,
right? Because
it's happening while verted, and then you do the inverted.
So gyro up, full out.
Yeah, no, exactly. Back out. Yeah,
back out.
Exactly. But shit like that could, I guess, help out with...
It's 360 no kick in, back out.
360 no kick in? That's literally what it is.
I'm gonna stop myself.
Holy shit.
So this has been Talking Tricks.
Alright, bye. We broke Jason. Actually, that's so funny. 360 no kick.
It's 360 no kick, back out.
I wish we had a name for 360 no kick. Like, it was just... I don't know if I know.
It's full. It's up. It's full up. That's it.
Full up without the up. Wait, that's just full. I hate myself. All right. Anyway, all right. So we gotta.
Well, and I actually used to have that same thing though. Like up until recently, I used to think gyro was reserved for vert tricks, and I kind of still use it that way. Like I won't say like, full snapu is full swipe gyro. I mean, which is kind of true, but also like
it just sounds weird.
Yeah, it is.
We're not as used to it,
right?
Yeah.
And when you kind of like think about it, like as a variation, like the twist / gyro, like a 360 or the next rotation to complete.
Yeah.
Whatever that is kind of like, I mean, it's the same thing essentially.
Yeah.
It's just.
Exactly. So I mean, so you literally just hit on it. So I feel like when a lot of us first start tricking and we hear twist or we hear gyro, we're like full 360. Like that means that I'm twisting exactly 360 from where I was before. But as you learn tricking more and more, you realize that a twist in tricking is more akin to less akin to 360 twist and more akin to like I just completed something.
Landing stance.
Exactly. So the getting to complete is what I mean. Right. So, and that's exactly what twist and gyro refer to. So when you hear swipe gyro, you're not literally gyroing 360 degrees so you're landing in hyper again. You're gyroing to the next complete. And that also like kind of, I guess it fits into even just basic twists. So like when you're doing a cart full, that's like cart, I don't know, side flip twist, whatever you want to say.
Right. Or cart front flip that twists over, or
exactly.
Or even if you do a backflip that has twists and just tries to reach the next complete, which would be a complete 360.
Yeah, exactly. But just taking the cart full as like a thing, technically the variation in it is that twist, and it's getting to complete even though it's not a full 360. Right. And that's why we accept that. one thing to really, like, I guess, get some nuance in is that once you get to, like, the rise position, you stop counting it as a twist. So,
Yeah,
that's why rise to complete is not a twist.
Well, the thing about it, I think, is because, like, okay, so when you look at aerial, an aerial twist, right? So aerial takes off from the mega position. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, if you twist to complete, you only have to twist 180. So that explains aerial twist. So, like, what gives with rise, right? Like, why is rise, like, the way it is? And actually, I mean, I'm not really sure.
I mean, there's kind of just an arbitrary point that trickers have decided, I feel like.
Well, yeah, I think...
You know what I mean? It's like, okay, so if you take the landing stance compass and you split it right where mega and semi meet, you know what I mean? Is like
that's the most you can twist is from semi, and the least you can twist is from that mega position.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really weird, and then
that's why A twist is so little twist, and rise twist is so much twist.
Right, and what's actually really strange too, and this is actually what I was meaning to say, was that like backflip is actually like in the middle. Like
that's why it's a full 360. That's why it's exact 360.
Twisting from complete makes it like, you know, a complete twist.
Yeah. So it's just really cool that it mathematically ends up being that, like, oh, what we think of as like a full 360 is right in the middle of like all of that. You know, a back full is exactly 360.
Right.
You know?
Well, yeah, and it's actually kind of like breaks it because we think of that as like the standard, like where it starts is like 360 for a whole twist, but actually 360 is like you said, directly in the middle, and it's divided between like the most twist from like the rise family and the least twist from the aerial family.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's really cool how it works that way. So that also makes Muggle Slayer even closer to rise than it is to, you know,
Muggle Slayer is the most amount of twist, and that's why like when you try to do Muggle Slayer Tornado, it feels like you're doing a backside 9.
Yeah, it feels like Muggle Slayer 9.
Well, and this same property applies to pop kicks or frontside kicks because pop is not very indicative of what frontside is.
So true. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, frontside kicks have almost a complete 360 degrees more rotation.
Yeah,
because they take off from the frontside position, and that's why they're so much harder.
That's so
why
interesting.
No one does them.
I actually never thought of that, and that's maybe the people who came up with tricking weren't that dumb. Maybe they have some logic at least. You know,
I don't think they knew why. I think they just understood it.
It's like their feel,
right? Well, because
which is
like
cool.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, backside 9 and pop 9 have like. There's like a complete like rotational difference. There's like an additional 360 on pop kicks than there isn't on backside.
Yeah, exactly. So, but okay, this next one, we have something to admit to you guys. This one breaks our theory.
Right.
It literally just puts a giant ass fucking hole in it. Not redeemable. Like, it's just, that's it. Just don't forget.
Pack up our bags.
Forget everything you just heard in the past 4 episodes.
Cancel your subscriptions.
Yeah.
It's over, boys.
Take back your Patreon money.
Yeah. It's over, boys. We had a good run.
So, Donut Boy.
All right.
Jesus fuck, what a variation. So, I don't know if you guys remember, but when we were talking about inversion in episode 1, we talk about how we define it. And how we define it is that when you're inverted, your hips are above your head, and when you're verted, your hips are below your head. And if you know what Donut Boy is, you already know how this like is playing out.
Yeah.
And that's because Donut Boy
your head is below your hips.
Yeah.
But your body is vertical throughout the entire trick. Listen, boys. All right, we presented you, and we're going to talk about other tricks that break the rules of tricking.
Yeah.
But Donut Boy is a deliberate assault on our framework by Nelson Zuniga. An orchestrated assault. Okay.
Go dox him right now.
He's planned it to undermine Talking Tricks' credibility from the get-go.
From the start.
From the beginning. Planted the seeds of doubt.
Yep, exactly. So now you know, loyal fans, go ahead, dox him, fight him, whatever.
Yep. Those who are Donut Boyers, just go ahead and unfollow.
Yeah.
I'm going to unfollow because I'm a Donut Boyer myself.
Let's cancel Donut Boy 2021.
Yeah,
so, hashtag canceled.
Cancel Donut Boy.
No, but don't actually bully our boy Nelson.
Yeah,
please.
No, please don't. Donut Boy is actually... I actually really do unironically enjoy Donut Boy.
We've had full-on sessions, dude, where we're just doing Donut Boy.
Yes. Actually, Frank and I have both done double Donut Boy.
Donut Boy twist, you mean?
Yeah. That's right.
Oh, and double Donut Boy.
Yes.
Which, what we mean by that is you do...
the Donut Boy twice.
Yeah.
No Donut Boy twist.
But Donut Boy twist, dude. Donut Boy twist is actually surprisingly kind of easy.
Yeah.
But
it's actually cool too.
Yeah.
It actually feels kind of cool.
We do it from swing. We do it from swing. Which is another thing to really outline about this is Donut Boy is not its own trick. Because it's a variation, you can cork Donut Boy, or you can full Donut Boy, or you can A-twist Donut Boy.
Right,
I've never seen people do that.
Let's talk about what exactly Donut Boy is then. What kind of a variation is Donut Boy? So Donut Boy is... So because your body is mostly, like, you're vertical. You're not... Your body... Your whole body doesn't invert. I mean, you bend your hips... bend at the hips and your head is below your waist.
Yes.
But, like, your body maintains this, like, vertical upright position for the most part. Yeah. And you twist in, like, a 360, so it's an uninverted twist.
Right, yeah.
Now, like I had basically described, it's basically, bend at the hips. It's like a pike, but uninverted.
Yeah.
And it's essentially, like, a variation of the 360 no-kick base trick for all kicks that we were talking about earlier.
Exactly, yeah, there's no kick. Oh, well, it can have a kick.
Right. And
I've seen Donut Boy rounds.
Right, one in this in Donut Boy high hooks. Donut Boy shuriken cutters is next.
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable. It's been written in stone. All right, but, like, essentially, though, like, in the same way that we can swing 9, in the same way we can bop 9, in the same way we can backside 9, we can do all this with Donut Boy as well.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Donut Boy shouldn't be excluded to just swings. Donut Boy should be punch, Donut Boy pop, Donut Boy reverse pop, Donut Boy.
Yeah.
Like, we got to do all the Donut Boys.
I don't know, man. I say call it what it is, though. I say full Donut Boy or cork Donut Boy.
Well, for sure.
Yeah. But no, you're right. I agree with you.
But, like, the sentiment's there. Like, it's a variation that isn't excluded to just swing.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, Donut Boy is definitely a weird one because of that. We're going to put a link in the description for those who don't know what it is, but... God, what a legendary trick. Just poking a hole in our theory like that.
Yeah, seriously. and we actually didn't even realize it until we were making this episode, and we were like, fuck, Donut Boy is literally where we fall apart.
Yep, exactly. So, but yeah, that's Donut Boy. And I guess, so...
You were talking about weird ones. And these are actually low-key weird ones.
Wait, which one?
The next topic.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so the next thing we're going to hit on is hand variations. And hand variations are definitely, like... a weird topic to talk about just because, like, there's, like, look at what Alex Hunter can do, for example. There's, okay, so when we think about TDR versus Sailor Moon, I would say most people would say one's right hand, one's left hand, and shit like that. But there are people out there that differentiate depending on, like, the duration of how much your hand is planning. So they would say, like, a true Sailor Moon is, like, you touch your hand down briefly at the beginning. So, like, the one where you have your hand in the ground throughout is a different trick. And so, like, what I'm trying to say here is that hand variations just add this whole other dimension of, like, not only are we worrying about what hand is touching the ground, but we're worrying about the duration and when it happens during the trick and what, all of this shit. So it's like...
Right. And then, like, okay, so on top of all that already, like, complexity, what makes... hand variations extremely weird to me is the fact of how mainstream they are, but they break the core rules of tricking.
The meta rules.
Right, the meta rules.
So I would say, let's take Broken, for example. So how does Broken do that?
So, okay,
Oh, Broken, for anyone who doesn't know, by the way, it's like, let's say, it doesn't have to be Rise, but let's take Rise for an example. If you do Rise, you do kind of a, not a side swipe motion, but you're landing on that right leg. But before you put that right leg down, you put your right hand down. Yeah. Right, and then
it's kind of like it's like a touchdown with your right leg, and it typically lands in the right leg landing stance tricks. Yeah. So hyper or right leg landing stances. Sorry, so hyper or semi.
Yeah,
right. And like you said, I mean, it's just so weird because, like, to me, as someone who's, like, tried to do plenty of backside tens and plenty of hyper hooks and have accidentally touched down, why it's suddenly becoming a variation and legitimizing unlanded tens, unlanded hyper hooks. Yeah. I mean, what was I doing Broken really in 2010?
Yeah, dude, you were innovating.
Okay,
God damn it.
But, like, this strikes at the core of what I was talking about. Like, it breaks the meta rules of tricking, touchdown tricks. So, like, typically, like, an established meta rule of tricking is if your hand touches the ground, you didn't land the trick. Right. If your knee, you fall, you don't. Whatever.
Yeah. Double cork, I touch my hand down, it's not
right.
It's not landed.
But all of a sudden, if it's done intentionally, it's seen as creative and innovative and variation, right? And, like, and that's totally, like, I'm not saying that that's, like, an invalid thing. Like, I totally recognize and observe that.
It's just interesting to see.
Yeah. Well, it's what I think of it is an extension of our property of variations being so creative and so infinite that like there's bound to be stuff that breaks the rules of what we talk about.
Yeah.
In the same way that Donut Boy breaks the rules of our framework, this breaks the fundamental rules of tricking.
Yeah,
right?
it's okay. So I would like you saying all of that just got me thinking about like art and like modern art and like all of this shit and stuff like that, and how variations are very similar to that. Because so I'm not saying that Broken looks shitty in any way. I actually do like the aesthetic of it, but it's interesting how it like mirrors modern art, and that like sometimes doing something intentionally shitty is seen as like beautiful because the intentionality of it rather than like the accidentalness of like how that could have happened anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like the moment you make that intentional is like, oh, now it's like art, now it's like cool and shit like that.
Right.
But like,
that is actually
like
a very interesting comparison to make between modern art and tricking.
Mm-hmm.
Not that tricking isn't already modern art.
I mean, it kind of is. Like, look how
like,
shitty it is.
Yeah, it's like, but like that's like a microcosm of it too. Like that's so interesting. I hadn't considered.
Yeah. Next trick theory episode, we're talking about postmodernism, so be ready.
Stay tuned for that exciting one. It's a page turner.
Oh my gosh. But anyway, we have, I mean, we just have like Gumbies, the ones that everyone hear about. Touch up is like touch down, but it's when you're going up on the trick. You know?
Right? I mean, you really, these are, you can't make them up, people. They're what the name says, touch up. I mostly see this as like sailor, but I guess this happens on left stuff.
What I was thinking of this specifically was like B-twist touch up.
Okay.
You B-twist, touch your right hand down, then go for it.
I would still call that sailor B-twist, I think.
Oh, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
I mean,
touch up.
Yeah.
Yeah, touch up is kind of like, but you could still touch up with the left hand, right? That isn't really done.
Can you? That's really interesting.
I think.
You definitely can.
Obviously, yes. But I think
that's awkward because it makes you twist right when you're trying to twist left.
How many things else are awkward in tricking? Like Croc and Muggle Slayer. Literally all the Crocs are awkward, so.
Exactly. So, okay. I mean, basically what we're trying to say is hand variations so much.
There's so much nuance, really. There's so much.
At the beginning, I've literally talked to Alex Hunter. He does not know how to name half the shit he does, and I don't blame him.
Right, because, and it's at that point when you've done, like, just because of how infinite variations are, right? It becomes almost impossible to name everything. Yeah. And it becomes more of like the thin slicers versus aggregators argument that we will eventually have and post on the show. Yeah. But, you know, it's essentially how into it do we want to get? Yeah. Similar in the same vein, Devil Scoot.
Oh, yeah.
Which is essentially scoot with your left hand placed throughout the duration of the trick. Yeah. And it actually almost makes Scoot a rise variation trick.
I was going to say that. That's interesting.
Really quick, on the same note, sub note, Scoot I think is like a variation of Aerial. And we'll talk about that.
It takes off right like that.
I'll have to explain it another time. You will though. You will. You will though. It's a very convoluted variation of...
I think it's a rise/rap variation or GM variation.
We'll argue and we'll post it in the YouTube video.
Yeah.
But for sure though, like a Devil Scoot though is like another level of this nuance, right? Like how long do we count the hand placement of it? Because you know, Devil Scoot is left hand throughout, but like touchdown is at the very end, right? And touch up is at the beginning. Like you know, it's kind of
start kneeled for it. Is that a thing? Like it's like
kneeled tricks is yet another variation. It is, you know, like Viking Scoot, etc. Literally, there's just so much stuff in variation.
There's so much stuff, and there's even really lame ones, which we're about to hit on.
Yeah. So right, and if you thought that, like the hand stuff was lame, well, buckle up. Because we're getting into like the truly weird stuff of tricking, the stuff that no one should be doing.
It's not weird. In
my opinion, no one should be doing, but people will still do, and they should still do.
So Peter Pan, what the fuck is a Peter Pan?
Peter Pan is yet another hand variation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this is one that involves kind of your arms, and you kind of just like ball up your fists and put them at your hips. And then you hold this position throughout the twist.
Perfect description. Yep. Love the execution.
Yep. That's how you do it.
All right, now Lazy Boy.
Yep. And now this is like you are literally kicking back. In a Lazy Boy.
Yeah. Well, think about your Peter Pan, right?
Okay.
Take those arms right by your hips.
Okay.
And now draw like a line across your shoulders, right?
Okay.
And now you're gonna invert your arms over that plane. Yes, exactly.
Yep.
And it goes over your head.
Yep.
So it's like you're lounging backwards.
Yeah, you're just chilling.
You're just chilling.
It's chill
like
twist.
a lazy boy.
Yeah.
Perfect. What a great fucking
Yeah, this one's
variation.
accurately named. This is probably the best named variation we encountered.
Yeah, I would say we should actually rank these after we get through. We have 5 lame ones, so
There's infinite more, even still. But we kind of narrowed it down to 5 because that's enough.
All right, next
Superman. Okay, Superman.
Wait, this is a mix. This is this is Peter Pan, but then the other hand is up
and outward and pointing above your head. It is a fist to the sky.
Wow.
While one at the hip.
Amazing.
Who does these things?
Jesus flip.
Now,
don't act like you're higher than this. We all know you were jumping on your trampoline 5 years ago before you learned about tricking, doing Jesus fucking flips. No shame in that, okay? So
we know you were doing it.
yeah, we're not even gonna explain it.
Actually, okay, no, for real though, like full disclosure, I've never done a Jesus flip in my life.
That is actually an impressive feat.
I'm
actually really proud of you.
like, I've tried and it just wasn't it.
Yeah.
But, like, I haven't tried enough to actually be able to do a Jesus flip.
Yeah. So, I hate that. Okay, so something funny about Jesus Flip is we were actually, we were just browsing, we were doing our research, and we stumbled upon the tricking Wikipedia page, which that is going to be an entirely fucking new episode on its own, because whoever made this page... Oh my god, what are you doing?
It's bad.
But on here, they have prefixes and suffixes. And notably, there's only like 10 of these, alright? But one of the prefixes and suffixes, one of the main prefixes and suffixes of tricking is Jesus. That's it.
Please give me the official definition of a Jesus.
Alright, according to Wikipedia... Jesus flip is any flip that is executed by rising straight up and reducing the amount of rotational momentum. It's notable for its extremely high setup into the flip in the crucifix position, resembling Jesus the Redeemer. Which, if you don't know who Jesus or Christ the Redeemer, it's the big statue in Brazil. Yeah, so now you know.
I like the additional nuance of reducing rotational momentum. Like that really just validated.
Validated. We listen. We're nerds. We're nerds, and we don't even do that.
Get good. Tricks.
Yeah.
All right, and so now this last one is for the troops.
Yeah.
And that's soldier.
Saluting our troops.
Soldiering.
Yep.
All right, and that's if you just do a little salute action in the middle of your trick. We talked about it earlier. Salute dub or salute dub swing salute dub. Hasn't been
get
done
up and
yet.
done. Yeah, new dub.
I mean,
right
go
here,
and do it.
Available for you.
World's first. We're just pumping out world's first.
Throwing out ways for you guys to get famous. Why aren't you just eating this fuck up? Like,
yeah.
Oh my god. Anyway.
Yeah, I wish I had talking tricks.
Yeah. All right. So I would say probably my favorite one of the lame ones is. I'm sorry, but I just love Jesus Flip. I just like getting into the position of Jesus the Redeemer or Christ the Redeemer. It's perfect. You know.
It's so cringy. It's so cringy.
Okay.
Almost as cringy as Soldier Cork, and that's why Soldier Cork is my favorite. Or Soldier whatever in general.
Yeah.
That's why Soldier's my favorite.
By the way, that's a Talking Tricks original. You actually can't take that.
No.
Soldier Cork is...
That's the official name of that variation. Thanks to Talking Tricks.
Well, Soldier Cork is actually the official trick of Talking Tricks. So what you see... What you see Alex Hunter doing in our logo, it might look like a TDR, but that's actually a soldier.
That's a Soldier Cork.
You just can't tell.
We should actually get him doing a Soldier Cork.
Oh my god. You're not wrong.
For like the April Fool's episodes.
Alright, so...
Sometimes putting tricks variations together creates what's like a new trick or colloquial terms for transition or variations. Can't talk tricks.
Right, exactly. And we kind of hit on this earlier when we were talking about like mixing different variations together. But like, I guess the literal most prominent one is Snapu, which Snapu is notably a swipe and a twist.
Right.
So,
but buckle up because keen listeners from earlier will remember that swipe itself is a compound variation.
Yeah.
That makes up the round kick and the hyper landing.
Mm-hmm.
So because swipe has a definitive like landing stance, how is it that we can variate past that? When I earlier said that it was the termination of a trick, right? Well, that's because like swipe with the twisted, like in addition to that, you have to twist past the hyper landing. And that's kind of like an exception to that rule because variations are constant exceptions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, past that hyper landing, you have to twist back to complete, which is at least 270 degrees, if not 360.
Yep.
Which would explain the full twist that you see in full snapu or tricks like actual cheat snapu.
I agree. You have to call it the swipe or else you're not... Because, like, if you do full round gyro, you're actually twisting to complete, which makes it a single full. Which sounds weird, but that's because the round kick happens at mega.
Right.
So, but, like, that's just a quirk of terminology. I don't think anyone would actually say round gyro for,
right,
for a full that you did a round in. You know what I mean? It's
sure.
like, so an interesting thing to note about Snapu is, I don't know if any of my followers on Instagram saw, but I kind of called TQU out on calling full swipe double gyro Snapu double instead of full Snapu twist, which is what that is. And so, like, I know full Snapu twist sounds weird because it sounds like almost a double variation, but when you think about it, you have to take it apart by its own thing. So you're doing a full Snapu. A full Snapu is already a double twist.
Right.
And then you twist after that. So that accounts for that kick happening and then those two twists happening. Okay, so why is it not Snapu double? Because Snapu double is a little bit like...
ambiguous,
actually. Actually, it's very ambiguous. It's like,
what's being doubled? Like, double is typically like a
modifier at the beginning.
Right.
So if I say double twist, you know what I mean? You know that the twist is the thing that's being doubled. Yeah. If I say double snapu, you know that the snapu part is the thing that's being doubled.
Right, which would mean swipe, twist.
Yeah, and actually this is kind of where his confusion comes from, is because he refers to double twist, swipe, gyro as double snapu, when it's actually double full snapu, because full is the thing that's being doubled. Right. So you're doing double full, and then you're doing the snapu swipe. Because double snapu kind of doesn't really make sense. And I get it's like, people shortening shit and stuff like that, but I think it actually really does matter in cases like this, obviously, because it's caused this confusion.
Right.
And it's created barriers to language that people don't understand, and people are like, wait, what is this trick exactly?
Oh, yeah.
So basically, full snapu twist is where you kick on the first twist, and double full snapu is where you kick in the second twist.
Right.
So, and those are both triple full variations. So
yeah. A weird one, similar to like what we were saying. So like, how would you describe full D leg, and that like a full D leg twist with an additional twist after it? And so what we can do is we can just because full D leg twist doesn't have a colloquial name like Hor Wing Whacker or D leg twist.
Yeah.
Then like we have to kind of like resort to a little bit more primitive terminology. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And we don't have like a shorthand name for it, so we just say full D leg double twist, right? Yeah. Which, like you already highlighted earlier, double twist defines a double twist addition, and then like we do full D leg double twist. It's a variation, a double twist addition to the full D leg.
Yeah, exactly. So it pretty much exactly what you're saying. It's like D leg doesn't follow the same rules as snapu, because snapu is understood to be a double twist variation.
Snapu includes the twist in its name. It's just inherent to it.
Exactly. So yeah, snapu is a little weird just because of that naming. So, but I think we all know that snapu and D leg are weird just because of like they used to be their own tricks.
Right.
Instead of variations.
Yeah, right. But and if we look at traditional snapu too, that's just rise swipe gyro or rise swipe twist.
Exactly.
So it's exactly what we've described. It's a rise snapu variation.
Yeah, yeah. And interestingly, it's only one twist because of the fact that rise starts before complete. So you're able to swipe in the next twist, but that's already technically twist one, and then when you gyro that, you're still back at one.
I think that's actually a great way to describe it too. Is rise starts before complete, and then aerial starts after complete. So that's why aerial is short and rise is more.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Past that though, two variations that are actually very similar to snapu, especially in terms of naming conventions, is Cairo.
Yep.
Which is a hyper hook that's landed twist. So this has actually like about 180 twists or 270 depending on when you hook.
Yeah.
And that actually,
the gyro itself, you mean?
Yeah, the gyro, the in-air twist past the variation, the primary variation, the hook. Right. So it could have been like hyper hook twist, or you could have like kicked it mega and twisted only half.
Yeah.
But essentially it's it's like a hyperhook twist.
Yep,
as
that's quite
it.
literally what it is.
Yeah.
So
Another the other one though is skull snapper, which is very similar to D-leg twist. That's a tucked D-leg essentially.
Yeah.
Tucked D-leg twist. So like to say double skull snapper would be like full tuck twist.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
That was something.
And,
that was something I forgot to hit on. Is when someone says double snapu, what I think of in my head was when Guthrie was doing full swipe, full. Like, you know what I mean? It's,
full swipe twist.
Yeah. So basically a triple full variation, and you're swiping.
Right.
I think at every possible part. No.
Yes.
Except for the dragonfly.
first. Yeah.
The dragonfly.
We
swipe.
actually skipped over dragonflies.
Oh yeah. Well, dragonfly is basically as when you like round kick as soon as you get out, right? It used to be a side kick, but now it's just like
it's understood to be like the first primary kick.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So it's like the tornado of tricks to a degree. You know what I mean? The only reason that tornado itself has a little bit of that rotation is because it takes off in that rise-like position.
Well, and because we're talking about dragonfly, I do have to know a quick, interesting fact. It's similar to shuriken in that it actually has a very limited space of availability where it can be performed. And that's at that first 90 degrees.
Yeah, if you don't do it there, you're fucked already.
Yeah, it won't be that. It's actually liable to come around past that point. So.
Yeah. And then there's obviously way weirder ones, like Pizza Boy is just when you flash straight into a scissor, but you don't chamber the leg. It's like out the whole time. Yeah. So it looks rad as hell, but it's like definitely one of those like weirder ones that you don't see it done as much.
And really quick on Pizza Boy, it's like I understand it's supposed to be like a flash kick, helicoptero, but to me it essentially could be like, if it's going to be a true variation, then it could be applied to all tricks. So is it swipe to late round?
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. You're not
through.
Wrong. I think it's that kick coming downwards as you're about to land on it, and it's like, nah, psych. Yeah. It's almost like, okay, this is like swipe late round. You know how people swipe late round very commonly together?
Yeah.
It's like that, but you're doing a scissor kick with it instead. Mm-hmm. That's really how I view it.
Yeah,
so,
I think that's probably the intention behind it too.
Yeah, I agree. So, but yeah, I mean,
where so swipe late round would be different because it's broken up.
Yeah.
And Pizza Boy would be like a kick throughout the entire variation.
It's like the opposite of shirt.
And Helicoptero would be without the swipe before.
Oh my gosh.
It's a lot of nuance.
There's so much
It's
nuance.
a lot of nuance.
I don't even like...
I hate variations.
Same. It's not as rigid and mathematical as the other ones.
Because
it's
so like it just
just breaks everything.
Right.
But something funny about late round. So like I posted on Tricking Group like a while ago, like asking about late round, because like I've always thought of as late round as like you do the round kick in Mega instead of at complete and shit like that. But like it's definitely like a little more nuanced than that, because I feel like a lot of vert kicks, their round are done at like Mega and shit like that, but it's not late round. So like what the fuck is going on? And so like I ask people, and like honestly there's just no solid definition of it. But
but I agree with you though. Like a lot of vert kicks and their kicks in that Mega stance. And exactly. There's no clear definition. Like, kicks don't end in complete unless they're twisted to complete.
Yeah.
From their kick in Mega
to
swing backward with their Dom.
Exactly.
Think Tornado Swing 9, etc. Tornado Swing Cork or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so,
like you kick at one point and you half twist to swing.
It's a fucking weird one. Just roll with it.
Yeah, because it doesn't exist in the vert kick version.
To me, if it looks like a late round, it's a fucking late round.
Right.
That's it.
We'll actually touch up a lot of this stuff too in one of our upcoming episodes on G-Kicks. Mm-hmm. The long-awaited one that we keep promising.
That it's a doozy. That's why. Yeah. There's so much. But alright, so I guess to finish up on variations is that like we mentioned earlier how like they can happen at any point except for landing stances, but there are some variations that like happen at landing stances.
You're right. So these are landings. Now these are variations similar to all other variations that have broke the rules that they kind of preside in.
Yeah.
This breaks the rules of landing stances, where landing stances are supposed to terminate a trick. Mm-hmm. However, these are variations
that terminate the trick. And we have things such as Ninja Landing, or Spider-Man Landing.
Yep.
Or the new awaited one from Malcolm. I don't know if you guys follow him on Instagram, but he just landed Nightcrawler, which is fucking nightmare fuel. And we'll link that video in the description.
Just imagine landing in a position that horrifies children.
Yeah, that's really what it is, actually. Right. So, but yeah, basically, I mean, you guys know what this shit is. You know what ninja landing stance is. It's like, I feel like I don't even know how to explain it, but...
We just had to highlight that, like, you know, there are additional really weird transitions that... Variations, of course. Too many beers, too many tricks, too many terms.
Not enough.
And so, you know, this is just yet another example of, like, variations that kind of break the rules that we've kind of set aside.
Yeah.
And it's just that variations are so infinite that there's bound to happen.
There is just so much. I personally don't use any of these ninja landing or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, I've never landed in Nightcrawler, never intend to.
Yeah. I mean, I might intend to do that one. I don't know about ninja. Oh, one I do like is the wushu landing stance. You know, the one where you land on the floor. I don't... fuck.
The Brandon Morrison break landing.
Oh my god. I actually really like that one. I think it's great. And Brandon Morrison's a wonderful human being, so...
Yeah. And most certainly, yeah.
Yeah.
But like we were saying, though, essentially, like, you know, it's just that variations suck.
Yeah.
And they take what is supposed to be, like, an established rule of tricking and of course take it on its head.
What we're really saying is ban all variations. Yeah. Please, let's just not do them anymore.
Jumps. That's all tricking becomes. Just jumps.
No round kicks, no hook kicks.
Jumps. Jumps and landing stances.
Extreme martial arts jumping.
Yep.
I'd be down for that.
Yeah, no twist past 360.
360 in, 360 out. Alright. Wait, is that just a double twist?
Untwisting actually becomes the meta at that point.
Yeah, literally. Oh, I want to make an episode about the meta rules of tricking. I like how you talked about that. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously you can tell this episode is definitely way more like, I don't know, like loosey-goosey fucking around kind of thing.
It wasn't as like hard, fast rules for tricking.
Yeah.
Because variations just naturally are supposed to be like creative, fun, and you know, to add some variety to what could otherwise be seen as very bland. Yeah. Even though the three components of tricking, except for variations, obviously have a lot of creativity inherent in them.
Right, exactly.
It's just that you can do way more.
Yeah, and this is gonna happen. Like, even just look at skateboarding. Skateboarding definitely has shit like this. I mean, you have people like not even using skateboards in their skateboarding shit. Like, they're like skateboarding.
They're actually tricking on their skateboard. And, yeah, exactly like you said.
Yeah, like just doing weird shit. So it's like, yeah, it's gonna happen. But yeah, I mean, that's basically variations. So I'm sorry for all the curse shit. That's really all I have to say.
Yeah, there's a lot of rule breakers, a lot of unforgivable actions.
But
that's just the nature
Donut Boy?
of tricks.
Ban it. Ban Donut Boy.
Cancel Donut Boy 2021.
But yeah, you can catch us roasting Wikipedia sometime soon.
Expect that.
Yeah.
Expect more content.
That was honestly one of the best things I found out, was just the Wikipedia page for tricking.
And how garbage it is.
Oh my god. Alright, well, you guys have a great day.
Yep, this has been Talking Tricks.
Yeah.
I'm Jason.
Frank. Oh, and also thank you to Steam French for the logo.
Alex Hunter for being the logo.
Yep, and Steve Rogers for the music. We appreciate you guys.
Catch you next time.
Bye.